Hello, I'm Mike Clements, and this is an online workshop to make an artist's book using a structure called the Fishbone. And this is what we'll end up with. So it's about 10 centimetres by 10 centimetres. And what happens with this book is that you open it by holding the two ends and simply pulling. And it opens up, and you've got one side and two sides showing, and then you push and it neatly folds up. And I'll just show you the end structure, which perhaps explains why it's called a fishbone. If you have registered for one of my workshops, online workshops, you will have been sent a JPEG file called Fishbone, and when you print it out onto A4 paper, that's what it will look like. This paper is a bit stiffer than copier paper. It is in fact 160 grams GSM instead of copy paper, which is about 80 grams, so twice the weight, twice the thickness and the body. So we've got that sheet of paper and we turn it over, and we're going to make some pencil marks along the two long edges. So I'm going to start at the top, and my first pencil mark is going to be at 2 centimetres, my second one is going to be at 12, and then 13.2, and finally 23.2. 2, 12, 13.2 and 23.2. See if we can make that slightly more visible for you. 2, 12, 13.2, 23.2. And now I have to repeat the process along the bottom edge. Two, 12, 13.2, 23.2, 2, 12, 13.2, 23.2. And now we use the ruler to join up these four pairs of marks we've made, and we simply fold the paper at those points and establish the fold. And how you can do that is just double check that top and bottom are nicely aligned, top aligned, bottom aligned, and then you can proceed to establish that fold. Now you can just use a fingernail to make that fold, or you can use a bone folder. That's what a bone folder looks like. And then I'm going to move on to the other lines. This is one of the middle lines. Establish it having made sure that it aligns nicely top and bottom. Run my bone folder over the line. The second of the two middle lines. Fold. Check that top and bottom are nicely aligned. Establish the fold with my bone folder, and I've got one more set of marks to join up and fold. There we are. Now the next stage is to fold it in half lengthways. So if you match up the two corners and the edge is between them, you will have folded it in half. And having done that, you can establish the fold again with your bone folder. And what you will have when you turn it back over to the blank side is something that looks like that. All of these folds now intersect along the centre line, and I'm going to put a dot, just a small dot where they intersect, and mark it A. Then I'm moving along to the next intersection, putting a small dot and marking it B. Next one, next intersection, marked C. And the final one, pencil dot, marked D. Now this next bit is the only bit of cutting you need to do. And I'm going to use a craft knife. You could use a pair of scissors with a bit of ingenuity. And I'm going to cut along this centre line, but I'm not going to cut all of the centre line, just the bits between A and B and C and D, and leave intact the paper from one edge to mark point A, and then the centre bit is left intact from B to C, from B to C, and the section from D to the end. Just make sure that that's as visible as it can be. So I put a dot at A, and I'm going to cut from A along the centre line, centre fold, to B, leave the paper intact for a short, narrow stretch, start again cutting at C and finishing at D, leaving the rest of the paper intact. So here goes. Start at A, finish at B, resume at C, stop at D. So I have cut from point A to point B. I've started again at point C and stopped at D. So I've got three sections of the sheet that are still intact. That one at the beginning, a narrow one in the middle, and this end section here. And you can see which bits I've cut. There's the first one, and there's the second. Okay, now it's on to gluing. And I'm going to start the gluing process by just reversing all those folds. They don't have to be completely crisp, because what I'm going to do is to use sheets of scrap paper, and these are usually ones where I've got print on one side, circulars that have arrived in the post and so on, and I use the blank side as scrap paper And what I have done here is I've put a sheet down of scrap paper down on my cutting mat to make sure that I don't get any ink on any glue on the cutting mat, and then I'm putting another sheet to mask off the bit where I don't want glue to go. So I've got from the narrow section in the middle, from B to C. I'm using Pritt stick glue. You can use more or less any type of glue that you like. You will find that some of them are more permanent than others. We're using Pritt for convenience, even though it is not the longest lasting of the glue options. You could also, instead of glue, use double-sided tape if you wanted to. That would work perfectly well. Again, the permanence may not be quite as good. And we're using scrap to mask off the areas that we're going to glue and try and make sure that we don't get glue in those points where we don't want to have glue. And there's one more area to do here, but I'll run over all of that again in a moment. You don't need, that's quite a large area, you don't need glue on every square millimetre, just enough so that it's going to stick. Now we'll run over this again. I have put glue on the band between the left-hand edge and point A, in the middle band between point B and point C, and finally on the wider section from point D to the right-hand edge. So there's glue along here, along there, and along there. And you can check, because anywhere that is cut does not need glue. Okay, so then we can fold the book over and start making sure that the glue is sticking. And again, what I'm going to do is to use a sheet of scrap to push the glue down, and I'm going to use my bone folder to do that. So it's that section there that I've been pushing down, then the central section, and finally the end section here. And in this case I'm using a sheet of scrap for two reasons. Not just to stop glue getting where it shouldn't do, but also because the bone folder can make the paper slightly shiny, so it's best to avoid too much pushing down. You will find that there's a couple of pockets here. Right, I've got that open. So I've got that pocket open, and I'm now simply going to push what was point B there, against point A. Or we'll call them now fold B to fold A. And I do that, I check that the alignment is good, top and bottom, and also that fold B is firmly pushed against fold A, and then I can simply pinch and start establishing the last pairs of folds. And again, I'm going to use my bone folder along there, but with a sheet of scrap to stop shininess. And the last stage is the pocket. Can I get it open? Yes. The pocket from D to C. So again, I'm pushing it firmly in, checking the alignment top and bottom, and then making sure that fold D is firmly pushed and adjusting fold C. And then again, we simply pinch. And then establish the two new folds there and there. Using the masking sheet to counter shininess. And where have we got to? Well, I think we've actually got to the end. So there we are. We've got something which at the end looks like a fishbone. It's about 10 centimetres square on the two sides. And then I can grab the two ends and pull. And when you push the two ends together, it folds up again and becomes a fishbone. Thank you very much for watching.